Hey guys, welcome back to the 31 Days of Halloween. Today is day 9, and this is coming out really late because I had work and things and couldn't record last night, so I've got to do it now. And as promised, I watched Burial Ground, and I'm really surprised I didn't see this movie before I did. It's a Italian zombie film. It kind of came out around the time when they were getting really popular with Lucio Fulci and George Romero doing Dawn of the Dead, and it's around that time. And this is when Italian horror was booming, and it was like they were making two kinds of films: comedies, like sex comedies, and horror films. And this, they kind of combine the both. And so there's a little bit of kind of sex stuff in it, and there's, I mean, it's softcore stuff, and then there's crazy zombie horror. The special effects are kind of mixed. There are some of the zombies that look really awesome, and then there are other ones that look really strange. Like they've got these teeth that are hanging out, like really weird. They don't even look like real teeth, but it's still like really good. The kills are really cool. There's a couple scenes that look like they were lifted directly out of Lucio Fulci's Zombie. There's a scene where the zombie rises out of the ground. There's a scene just like that in this film. And there's the famous Splinter scene that's in Zombie. There's a scene just like that in this film, only it's with glass. So they kind of, zombie kind of grabs her and pulls her through kind of this glass, and it kind of shreds her face. It doesn't look as cool as it sounds, but the acting is, it's really cheesy because in a lot of Italian films, they didn't record audio because they had actors that spoke English, actors that spoke Italian, and so they would just speak their lines in whatever language they spoke, so they wouldn't really understand each other. But later, they would just dub it over with in Italian or in English, whichever one they needed to do. That's why a lot of the older Italian horror films that you watch have really bad dubbing. This has that, but it all works. It's so fun and so really cool. I wish I'd seen this much earlier. This is the first time I'd seen this movie. This is another one that I bought last year at Cinema Wasteland and just now got around to watching it. It's, like, to me, top tier Italian horror. And I say that, it's by all accounts a bad movie, but it's a good bad movie, kind of in the vein of like Troll 2. It's not that bad, but it's super cheesy. Dubbing's really bad. Acting is, some of the actors are really good. Some of the actors you can tell have never been in anything. Basically, the plot, I skipped over this part, but the plot is that, in these films you don't really need to know the plot, but what happens is a group of people go to this professor's estate where he's supposed to tell them something about some kind of ritual of having with the dead, something like that. They never go into it in great detail. And what's funny is that Zombie ends on kind of a down note, and this film ends on a real down note. It's actually, I wish they would have extended the ending, because there's a scene, you'll see it, and I thought it was going to happen. It doesn't happen. It just kind of fades to black. There's also a weird, there's this actor, he's a kid, the actor's Peter Bark, and he plays this kid, and he's like really attached to his mother, and he keeps calling her mama, mama. And the actor's like 25 years old in the movie, and he's supposed to play a kid, and they did this because they couldn't have a kid in the movie, which I thought was weird because I've seen some other Italian horror movies that have kids in them. But anyway, they had casted him because they felt like they needed to have a kid, but they couldn't act kid because of some law that they said. So it's really creepy because he looks older. He's supposed to be a kid, but it's really strange. And there's a crazy scene later on with those two too. The woman that's in this movie, the lead actress, that's the other thing about this movie, is there really isn't a lead. There is, but there isn't, because it's just kind of like a whole group of people. But it kind of focuses on this one woman, Mariangela Giordano, and she's beautiful in this movie, and she's the mother of the guy I was talking about, Peter Bark, and she does really good in this movie. There's a couple scenes where you're like, whoa, like it's also shot really well, and it's a lot of kind of, when I've done a lot of these reviews, I talk about how they don't shoot movies like these anymore, and this has kind of there are certain scenes that are kind of handheld. If you've seen a lot of Italian horror movies, you'll know what I'm talking about. And there's a couple scenes where it's kind of like bouncing, but it's cool. It's not like nauseating. it's kind of a cool effect. They do it a lot in those films. A lot. It happens a lot in a lot of Italian giallos. They do that a lot, and they kind of do that in this movie too. And what I've noticed is that a lot of Italian zombie movies, they have walking zombies, and something that I think George Romero didn't capture that they really capture in this movie, and it happens in Zombie as well, is that they have this kind of impending, oppressive, like, doom in these films, and I don't know how they do it. It's so good, and this movie has a lot of very gory scenes. If you've seen Zombie by Lucio Fulci, it's a lot of this. They're not brain eaters, they're gut munchers. So they'll just like pick livers and guts and everything out and just chew on them, and that's the movie. I really loved it. I would probably give it 4 out of 5. Like I said, if you're not into horror and you're just kind of a casual viewer, you might not like this at all. This is kind of like a horror kind of connoisseur type movie where you watch it and you can smile and see the references and just enjoy it, because it's so, I can see why this movie is kind of a cult classic as opposed to Squirm. So that was Burial Ground. It's out on Blu-ray by Severin. That's how I got it. The Blu-ray is really nice. It's got a couple special features on it. I think that I'm going to watch another film that I got from them called Absurd. I think I'm watching that. That'll be the next movie that I review, so if you hurry up, you can see it before I review it. But that'll do it for today. As I said, it's day 9. This is going to be really late when this comes out, so sorry about that. But I will see you tomorrow with my review of Absurd.